everybody. Today is day 2 of our 30 watercolor tips and tricks. And so we are going to go through our supplies first, and then we're going to get into our tip of the day. But I'll show you what we're painting first. It's going to look like this. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so the supplies that you're going to need for today are a little bit less. You need your watercolor paints. This is the pan that I like to use. Whatever you've got is great. You're going to need some sort of a water jar. I like to fill mine up only about this far. A towel or some paper towel. You will probably want a heat gun or a hair dryer if you can. Otherwise, you'll just have to wait for things to dry. We need a paintbrush. This one is a size 10 Winsor & Newton round watercolor brush. Got a pencil, got a kneaded eraser. I know it's blue this time. It's cute, isn't it? And you need some kind of watercolor paper. So I'm going to work on the 3" by 3" piece of watercolor paper today. If you want to do the same at the end, we're going to put them together and do something cool with them. But you might also want a scrap piece of paper today as well, because I think that we'll have a good time sort of practicing this technique and then implementing it. If you do not have your printables, you can go to the day 0 video, and that has the links and helps you get started. But you'll want probably your little booklet that we made. And if not, we'll just go through that together. So no need to get that one. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to go into our little booklet for the day and switch it over to day 2. Should look like this. And day 2 is called brush pressure. I'm just going to read it. A round paintbrush has a tip and a belly. How much pressure you use determines how thin or thick your line will be. This is the tip and this is the belly. Okay, and I teach on one brush, and we're going to use that one brush today. So if you are at home, you can always use anything that you've got. If you want to find something about this size, or at least a round brush, that will help you for practicing our skill today with the brush. But using a watercolor brush is really about pressure. So when I teach classes in person, I kind of like to do it like this. So I'm going to do it here too. I'm going to hold my hand out, and I'm going to show you that when I hold my hand like this, you can see the tip of the brush is very small. Can you see this? Very tiny. Hold on. I always struggle with the camera angle. Very tiny, like a pen or a marker. But the more you push on the brush, the bigger the tip gets. The more you push, the bigger, and now we're all the way into the belly of the brush. So it's about pressure. That's how we use a brush, is pressure, okay? Also, I've found in just watching people paint that when you're painting and you're painting like this, and like my brush is on like a 45-degree angle, their tip is going to be a little bit bigger as they push on it, right? Then if they were to hold it like this, so if you hold your brush really vertical like this, you're going to get this teeny tiny thin line. And that's what we're going to do today in our practice. We're going to practice thin line and then pressure and what it does, and then how to lift up and get that thin line again. So today, brush pressure, we're going to work on it. So we're going to start out today by doing something like this. We're going to work on pressure, and then we're going to go ahead and get to this where we're going to work on glazing and layering and mixing up different paint colors. So this is where we're going, okay? But first I thought, let's work on this for a minute. It's a really good activity to work on brush control. So we don't need a pencil or an eraser for this part. This part, we're going to actually just make up paint first. There will be no sketch to work from. When you get water, you can just put your brush right into the jar, and then we're gonna pick, you can do any color you want for this, but if you want to work on finding a green you like, you can do that too. I'm going to swirl my brush around, swipe it onto my palette, go into my water and come back, and now that's a puddle. Now if that's the darkness that I want for right now, great. If I want to add more paint into it, I'll do that now. And probably something like this is good for us to start out. You don't want it too light because it's going to be harder to see. We also don't need it to be like really dark either. Okay, and this is just a practice in brush control. So I'm going to first clean out my brush and dry it on my towel so I know what I'm starting with. You don't really, if you have a full brush of water first, it's going to be tricky because you don't want it to feel out of control. I'm going to put maybe the first half of my brush into this puddle. And then, okay, I'm going to get closer. All we're going to do is start out very light on the tip of your brush and slowly put pressure and more and more and more until you get all the way into the belly, and then release. Less pressure, less pressure, less pressure. And then you're going to get skinny again. And we are not going to worry about it too much, but keep it going. Start to put more, 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 less, 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 and keep it moving so it's skinny. Okay, I'm going to load my brush up again, still just maybe the first half. And I'll go ahead and start right here where I was. Okay, so less, and then more, 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 less, 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 skinny line, more, more. It's just an exercise to learn about what happens when, okay? So we'll do a few more. You can do an entire page if you want to. We'll do a couple rows together though. I'm not leaving you yet. Let's do another one. I did still just about half of my brush full of water here. All right, and then I'm going to start right here. Remember, the more vertical you hold it, the tinier the line. So really skinny if you want, and then more, 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 less, 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 and a skinny line. We can keep it moving from here while it's wet. Skinny line, so more, 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 less, less, less. If you are working with a tiny brush, these are going to look different. All you need for this is a round brush of some sort. Keep going, skinny, more, 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 less, less, less. And see, that was wider, and we get into it again. And you can just play with this and sort of see what happens. We'll just do a couple together. See what happens when you do it quicker or slower. This one's a little faster. And I think it's going to be personal preference a little bit to see, like, do you like it faster or do you like it slower? We're just all different painters. Just like our handwriting is different, our painting is different, and the choices we make are different. So really, again, nice and light. I personally kind of like it a little bit faster, but that lift up, I need to slow down. And the only way I know that is I'm observing what's happening when, right? So this is a very great example of brush control, okay? I will do one more together, and then we're gonna get into our actual painting of the day. People often ask for like scrap paper in like classes that I do in person, and I really kind of make people be brave and just do it on the paper. And sometimes that's annoying, I'm sure. But it is really nice to sometimes take paper and just practice something first here, because we are going to be doing this in our leaf shapes. And the practice will be that we are actually doing, you know, like a little stem with leaves like this. But you're going to be in a tighter space. So, okay, I think that's good for this one, but you practice this until you feel ready, and then we're going to get into this one. I'll show it to you again. This is where we're going. All right, so now we are going to get into it with our pencil and our eraser. And let's just observe for a moment first. We see this really light green in the back. I think I see 4. I think I see 1, 2, maybe just 3. I think we've got 1, 2, 3. We'll do 3 today. And it's going to start all the way back here, and we'll do like sort of a bigger group of stems first. And each time we darken our paint up, we'll make it a little bit smaller so we still see these light green ones. Then when we darken it again, we'll make this stem even smaller so that we see all 3 layers of green. Okay, so that was our observation. Always a good idea to stop and observe. Also, if you want to take a screenshot of this so you can see that one, I'll leave it here for just a minute. And you can take your camera. Sometimes it's just nice to have it on your phone in case I don't have it in the screen at the moment. Okay, and we're going to do a little sketch. So the thing I'll always say is to press very lightly with the tip of your pencil, and that way you can rearrange things any way you want. But if you press hard, it's very hard to erase. So I'm going to start by starting a stem somewhere here. And I think I want, if we look at this, it goes over here. We got maybe 3 of them. So I'm going to kind of do one that just kind of goes up and away over to the other corner. Okay. Then this one I'm going to curve out like this. I'm just trying to think about how to get these to really fill this in. And then 1/3 one up here. And if we decide to fill in more as we go, that's just fine. In fact, let's get one more right here. I changed my mind a lot. That's okay. you can too. We've got these 4, I think that's great. So as we go, we're gonna be taking our brush here with a dry brush, I'll show you. And we're gonna be following along the stem, and then we're gonna be creating these little leaves that are gonna come out of all these different stems. Then we'll dry it, mix up new paints, and do it again. So for our first bit of paint, we need a light green. I am going to dip my brush into the water. Remember, we don't need as much paint now. We need more water. And so we want this to be harder to see, okay? This is your light one. So you just need to know whatever you come up with now, you need to be able to go darker twice. Okay, that's our color. And I think that's probably enough. It feels pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna clean out my brush, dry it on my towel so I know what I'm starting with. That's a way to really make sure you have control of how much water is on your brush. And I'm gonna get my brush into this puddle that I have created. And remember, when we're in small areas, we're lifting up really light on the pressure and keeping our brush nice and vertical. So I'm going to start with running the tip of my brush along this pencil line. And then this is brush pressure. So I'm going to turn my page and make it easier for myself. I'm going to do it here, press down and up. And that should look like a leaf. Now, it's going to be a little harder for you to see on camera, and that's just because it's light colored paint. But from here, we're going to pull out a little stem, really light on the tip of your brush, okay? Then press down and up, and you're going to get a leaf. Okay, and then another one this way. Press very light on the tip of your brush, press down and up. Okay, I didn't have enough paint, so I'm grabbing more paint, and I think I might darken my puddle just a little because I just think it's too hard to see. So same thing here. Some can be right next to it, so press and then press down and up. So you remember, we're going like more, less pressure. Okay, I know you can see this one so much more. It has a lot of water in it. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. Run your brush right along that stem, and now here, light on the pressure, more, less. Sometimes saying it just helps. So really skinny line, light pressure, more, less. And it's starting, they can overlap like this. It just gets so beautiful. I'm turning my paper because you really want to be kind of working out and away from you. So very light, more pressure, and then less pressure. And you're really just observing what's happening when you do this. Do you like it? Right here, I'm going to add a little stem light on the tip of my brush and put more pressure and then less. I want these to be drying less fast, so I'm going to add just a little bit more paint onto my brush. And I'm going to keep going. And now they're going to overlap. So this one, I'm going to, I'll just go light on the tip of my brush, right down the stem, really light on the tip of your brush. Remember, you can put a pinky down somewhere where it's dry if you want a little support pinky. And I'm going to do this part too. And then I'm going to start right here because I know this is wet and it's going to overlap. So light, I'm very light, and then start to add pressure, more, and then less. I want it to end over here so we can see the tip. Turn my paper. Very light pressure, more, less. And this is just really reinforcing that idea that the way to use this brush is about pressure. Same thing here. Now try to get into a groove. Don't exactly follow me with the more, less, okay? Because we're all going at different rates, right? I'll do some here very close to it because I want them to stay on my paper. And then some here I might give a stem, and that's very, light pressure. Then more pressure and less. And now you're going to just start to see if you can get into a groove a little bit. The more of these you do, the more the idea of even getting into a groove will make sense to you. I remember in the beginning, it's hard. It's a new skill. And I think I like that. These ones are quite light over here. I could even go over this one if I wanted to, just so you can see it a little bit more. I don't want them to like not be a part of things later. But when we were talking about pressure, notice we didn't sketch any of these. So sometimes we're gonna do, I'll show you. Sometimes when we do leaves, we're gonna draw them. And at that point, we're just filling it in, which means you can just outline it and fill it in. But we're creating these with our brush, and that's why we're focusing on that pressure, because a round brush is so perfect for leaves. So it could have been this way, and if you want it to be today, it absolutely can. Otherwise, light on the tip of your brush, and then apply pressure. Okay, so now we're going to dry this and then make a puddle of darker green paint. We know it's dry because when I lift it up, I cannot see the light reflecting on the paper at all. And now we will first take our pencil and we are going to sketch another different way. Okay, so see how these ones are somewhere else? They're overlapping differently, not right on top, but different angles. And I think it's helpful to just pencil in just these main parts of the stem. So when I look at this, I'm going to try to go different directions this time. So maybe up here, it's going to curve out in this way. So that'll be my beginning right here. And I'm going to move it. See how these are a little bit further away from that bottom stem? I like that. So I'll start over here, up and away. Don't overthink it, but right now, because you did not put watercolor paint over the top yet, if you don't like this line, you can erase it. And then from here, since I know, like, and you can just look at this one too, it's kind of going out and to the left and then over to the right and up. We can just copy that. Let's do it. We'll go over to the right and up. But remember, we don't want this to cover all of that light paint. So when I'm placing leaves, I'm also going to intentionally place them slightly off instead of right on top. Let's see, that gave us 1, 2. I think we want one this way, and that's it. Now, if you get confused later on, it's okay. We'll just kind of, we're making it up, and this does not look super planned, and that's okay. I love it. I think it's honestly very beautiful. Layering similar colors, when you're thinking about colors to create a palette for something, like, that's beautiful. You kind of can't go wrong with it. So now we're going to mix our medium color. I'm dipping my brush into my water and I'm going to grab another color. I started initially with the paint on the bottom right. Sorry, I didn't mention that today. Right now I'm just grabbing some from the second one up and a little mix of the second and third. And I just want to look at it. So I'm playing for a second to go like, is this too dark? Is this too light? Does this feel like the zone I want to be in? And now I can add a little bit of water to it because I want to make sure I have enough paint to work with and it doesn't, I don't want to have to like make more of this while I'm painting. Okay. This looks good to me, I think, because I think I can still get quite a bit darker. Let's hold it up. You can see that, but I love to try it out here. And when you move it around, you can see it better because it's not all piled on top of each other. So check it out there. Now, still, I'm going to sort of go like this so I don't lose all my paint, all right? And I'm going to clean out my brush again and dry my brush on my towel. When I dry my brush on the towel, it's like this. 1, 2. And then I know what I'm starting with. I've got control here. If I had a brush full of water, I'm going to have no control, okay? And so if your paper's bent like this, it's because it had to absorb water. Sometimes you can just kind of flatten it out. I'm going to put maybe the first third or half of my brush into this one again, and now I'll follow these new stems. Remember, again, light on the tip of your brush for this one. You can even go this way if it's easier. When I'm filming, I don't want my hand to be in the way for you guys more than it needs to be. Okay, great. And from here, I always like to do at the end of the stem. So remember, light and then more pressure, less pressure, less pressure. And we're going to just sort of pull stems out from here, starting at the stem and coming away. Push down, lift up. See, that's a funnier shape, but that's cool because leaves are not all actually the same shape. You know what I mean? Here we go. Now I'm going to watch. I don't want to cover these light green stems. So pull up and away, press down, press down. Ooh, that one's even broken. I'm just going to finish part of it and leave it a little bit empty. Over here, some more. And I am trying to watch that I'm really overlapping. Like if there's a leaf on this angle, I might put the next one this way, not just like that, right? Because it covers too much of what I've already done. And we don't want that work to have been for nothing. I needed a little bit more paint, so I freshened that up. I will go down this little stem now so I can work on both. I just wanted to see what happened when I filled this one in. So remember, pressing down and lifting up, down and up. And I'll probably put a smaller leaf here. And see, that's cute too, to do a variety of sizes. And in nature, that's what we see. The shapes are not all the same and they overlap as well. This looks good to me. I'm going to keep going with the stems first. Pressing down, lifting up. And you can always adjust them if you don't like them. Like, watch. Oh, I don't like it. Look, no one's stopping you from fixing that shape. But we're just practicing right now, that's all. Some small, some bigger, some overlapping. If you missed the stem, come back and grab it. That was weird, so I'll fix it. This is turning out cool, isn't it? I love this one. This stem was from the last one, but I can see it a lot, so I'm going to cover it. See, you can do anything you want. You're the boss of this. I do like to pull out and away from my stem. Look, I'm going to overlap that stem too. I would say it's pretty good. Maybe one more over here. So now you are looking at your painting and looking for balance. If you feel like you need to see something somewhere else, adjust that now. I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush now. And now we're going to give this a dry one more time. I'll show you why. Some of it is dry, but do you see how much light we can see reflecting here? And if I went in with my new color, it's going to bleed. Okay, so we're going to give it a good dry, then we'll mix up another darker green. I already love it without the third layer, but it's going to get even better. If your paper curls up, roll it backwards gently a little bit. This one isn't bad, but some of them, if you paint a lot of water, the paper has to absorb all of that water, and so it just gets a little bendy. Okay, we're on to our third color. I'm going to dip my brush into my water, and now I want to find something dark. I want it to stand kind of distinctly different. I can put it right into this puddle I already had. That's fine. And I'm going to mix two different colors, just getting a bunch of paint. So it's just more paint into your water. So the puddle can look the same size, but more paint into it is going to get you the darkness that we want. And I think that feels pretty good right there. So I'm going to do this again. Sometimes I don't want to waste my paint, so I just kind of go like that. So I save it. I'll clean out my brush. Remember, I'm going to dry it on my towel so that I know where I'm starting with. And we'll go here, and now same thing again with our pencil. We want one more stem. Move this over. And I just love how this layers, how it really is taking up much less of our space now. So we want to keep it into this corner this time. I will put my stem kind of close to this one, come up and away, and one more. And instead of curving it to the right now, I think I'll curve it to the left a little bit. And I'm going to start with that. I know it's harder to see. Hopefully in person with yours, you can just see it a little bit better, but I just did those pencil lines on top. I want to remind you, if you do not like them, this is still erasable, but make sure that your paint is dry. So if that was wet paint and I erased on top of it, I would be very disappointed right now because I would have smeared it. Okay, my brush is clean, my brush is dry. I'm going to get my brush, remember the first third or half of my brush right here into this puddle. And I'm going to now follow my lines, very careful, very light, because the darker the color, the more you really notice it, you know. I think I want to adjust my paint real quick and get it even darker. So I'm adding more paint into my puddle. I don't need a lot more water, I need more paint. So that was my first one. And before I lose these, I'm going to grab these stems. Okay, I got all the initial stems. And from here, press and lift. Really light on your brush for a stem. Pressing down, lifting up, pressing down, lifting up. And now play with them, some bigger, some smaller. And this is an experiment you can do all day long. You can put on your favorite show, and you can do so many of these just to practice. Here we go. maybe I'll do one more. I want a little bit more balance. I'm going to take a stem up here, and I want a couple, and that's all you're looking for. What do you think of this? And I think it turned out awesome. I think I could have even gone darker with my paint. I think this one's a little darker, so that's something that I might play with if I did this again. I might also do the same thing, but in magenta and in blue, and just tried it different ways. I think this could just be beautiful on a card, as just a painting on the wall, or just something. I mean, you could literally, any of these, you can start putting notes on the back of them to a friend or to your kid. It can be in their lunchbox. Okay, I'm going to quick dry this one tiny spot so I can show you. That one was quick. So you're at the point, you've actually done it. That was it for this one. It's a little bit more simple. So on the back of each of these, or on the front, you can be signing your name. If I was going to do it on the front today, I would grab my felt tip pen. And I kind of want it hidden. I might come right along one of these stems and do a little signature. But if I didn't even want to do it on the front, it's just really fun to use this stamp. You can get a stamp with your name on it, or you can just sign it. We'll do it here. And while I change this, I'm going to tell you guys that if you want to share your artwork with me, and if you want to go to my Facebook page, Audrey Shantz Art, and share your work there, that's where you can do photos. You can't do them here on YouTube, okay? And so you can do that with the hashtag Audrey's Art Club, just so we can see each other's work. I think that would be so awesome. If you have questions about anything, ask them below. If you want to make sure you get notified of upcoming videos, you can go ahead and I think you can ring a bell, or you can subscribe to my channel. You can set a reminder on your phone to do this every day. And if you want to just leave a message, I'd love to see it. So, okay, guys, that was day 2. We did it. Oh, I wanted to show you one last thing. If you printed this on a thicker paper, you could take your paint. I would just do very light on the water. And we can paint on here and it'll dry. If you're just on printer, like a thin printer paper, maybe just use a pencil or something and cross it off instead. That was day 2. I'll see you tomorrow.